I don't want to see your face any longer. I don't want any trash in my new dream house, so just get out.
Ben, and you?
Yes, I don't want to live with such a trashy woman. My name is Laura, and I'm 34 years old. I was married to Paul, who is 4 years younger than me, but it was never a matter of concern until lately. I met Paul at my friend's party. My friend Lucy and Paul were gym friends. Paul was a handsome young man with a chiseled jawline and a strong physique. He was charming and a jovial man. I was single at that time, and Lucy wanted to desperately set me up with someone. She introduced me to every single man at the party. That's how I was introduced to Paul.
Hey Paul, CB Muley. Meet my nerdy millionaire friend.
Cookies, doing. Lucy, stop embarrassing me. Haha, don't be embarrassed. It was a compliment.
Thank you.
Lucy, you could have included beauty with brains in Laura's introduction.
Oh, you're right. I should vanish. I was. Actually, she needed was beauty with brains. Now you both have a good time, and I'll attend to the other guests. I'll your wrath.
After Lucy went, Paul asked, "Hey, why did Lucy call you a nerd?" I smiled and said,
Well, I'm an engineer, and I work for a software company which keeps me busy most of the time. So, I don't get enough time to socialize and hang out with my friends, so they call me a nerd.
"Wow, that's awesome. So, you must be having a handsome salary. Hence they call you a millionaire nerd."
Yeah, you could say that.
We spent the evening chatting and getting to know each other. I found Paul to be extremely sweet and irresistible. Soon after that, we started meeting outside for coffee and dinner. Paul used to pick me up from work so that we could spend more time together. He worked as an assistant in a small company. After dating for a few months, Paul proposed to me. I loved Paul, but I felt it was too early to decide. Besides, Paul was 4 years younger than me, so I was concerned if he was serious about it.
Paul, are you serious about this?
And of course, we've been going out for a while now. It's only a couple of months since we met. Besides, you're 4 years younger than me.
Paul chuckled. Oh, come on. Laura, are you still stuck with all these age-old beliefs that the husband should be older than the wife? No, it doesn't matter to me, but I was wondering if you had a problem with this.
Chill. Laura, you're a modern woman who shouldn't be thinking about these ridiculous things. Paul convinced me that we would live happily as a married couple. I finally agreed. We met each other's parents and informed them about our decisions. Although my father, Glenn, didn't say anything and was happy about my wedding. My mother asked me privately, "Laura, honey, I hope you've discussed your finances with Paul. I'm just concerned with the fact that you are doing way better than Paul in your career, so that should not come as a problem between you both. Men are egotistic about these things."
No, Mom. Paul is a sweet man. He does not have any such ego. In fact, he agreed to do the household chores as I have a busy working schedule.
I'm glad to know this. Take care, honey. This conversation made me think that I have never discussed my finances with Paul, neither did I ask him about his salary. I was never interested in his money as I earn well enough, but Paul had inquired about my salary. In fact, he asked me about my salary even before he proposed to me. I was worried about this for a while, but then I decided to ignore this. I was super excited to start my married life with Paul. After the wedding, we went on our honeymoon trip to Florida. The trip was sponsored by my company as a wedding gift. We lived our life to the fullest during this time. After a month, Paul sat me down after dinner and asked me for a favor. "Honey, I'm so sorry to ask you this, but I need your help."
What's up? Tell. Is everything all right?
Well, no. My parents are in trouble. The apartment in which they are living is on the second floor without any elevator. As they are aging, it's becoming difficult for them to climb the stairs. Yeah, I understand. Why don't you shift them to another house on the ground floor? Or to an apartment with an elevator? He ignored my suggestion and said, "Actually, Nara, I wanted to build a house for them."
Okay. I hope you know how expensive it is to build a house, right?
Yeah. I know that. Do you have enough savings? Or are you planning to take a loan?
I was wondering if you could lend me the money to build the house.
I was shocked. This was unexpected. I didn't know what to say.
But, what?
Since you earn so well, it should not be a problem for you.
But Paul, I'm not sure if I can lend that huge amount of money.
Why not? Paul became aggressive with his ask. I honestly didn't know how to deny his request, so I just said, "Okay, let me think about it." "Sure, I'll wait for your help." I spent the night wondering if it would be wise to lend all my savings to Paul, and that too, to construct a house for his parents. I've been working so hard to earn this money, and I've saved it to buy my own house and retire peacefully. The next morning, while I was leaving for the office, Paul hugged me and said, "Laura, I'll be waiting for your decision. Let's discuss this on the weekend." I'm running late. I wasn't feeling too good about this. I didn't know what to do. So, I spoke to my colleague regarding this. She suggested that I should make an official contract and get it signed by Paul so that he returns the money. That seemed to be a good idea to have everything official so that Paul does not back out later. I returned home and informed Paul that I can lend him the money, but he would need to repay me in 3 years. To my surprise, Paul agreed to this. I made it clear to him that he would have to sign the official papers, and if he defaulted, I could take action against him. Hessa, you've got to be kidding me. Well, no, I'm serious. I have the papers too. I gave him a serious look to which he said, "Fine, I'll sign." I transferred the money to him, although I still did not feel good about lending the money because Paul's salary was not sufficient to pay me back. Paul started behaving weirdly after this. He came home late and did not help with the household chores. Whenever I complained about this, he dismissed me, saying that he is busy at work. I gradually lost my affection for Paul. During the weekend, he was mostly away, overseeing the construction of his new house. At times, he didn't come home, saying that he would stay at his parents' place to care for them. I was getting suspicious of his activity. I could no longer take this frustration and decided to confront Paul. "Paul, do you realize that you have been acting weird all this while and living like a parasite in this house?" "What do you mean? How dare you use such words against me?" "First of all, you have been living on my expenses since we married. You have not contributed anything financially to this house. On top of that, now you don't even help me with the household chores." He looked into my eyes and responded casually, "You knew that I was earning low, then why did you marry me?" I was shocked at his response. "But wait, excuse me. I'm not in the mood to fight with you now. I'm excited about the housewarming party that Mom's organizing at our new dream house." He said this as if he tried to mock me. I couldn't believe my ears. Paul did not even inform me that the house is already complete, and they are throwing a housewarming party. I yelled at him, "You built the house with my money, and you didn't even inform me that the house is complete. And your mother is organizing a housewarming party without even inviting me. What the hell?" He casually responded. "Oh, my bad. I must have forgotten. Please be our guest." He went out of the house humming at the top of his voice as if nothing happened. I was so angry at him that I wanted to break everything which was there in front of me, but I somehow calmed myself. After an hour or so, I got a call from my mother-in-law. I didn't say anything else and I hung up the phone. I was pretty sure that Paul would have asked her to call and invite me. If she genuinely wanted to invite me, she would have done so earlier. Besides, she does not like me. She never talked to me properly, even when she met me for the first time or even after the wedding. Initially, I didn't want to go to that party because of what has happened, but later I thought that if I don't go, Paul and his mother would badmouth me, saying that I'm jealous of their new house. So, I decided to put up a fake smile and show up for a while. I reached the location to see that the entrance of the house was decorated with flowers, and Paul was standing at the entrance with his mom, greeting the guests. As I entered the house, my mother-in-law said, "Oh, you came? I thought you wouldn't come." "What made you think that?" Paul intervened. "Now that you have come, get inside." I went inside the house and met my father-in-law, who was sitting alone on the chair. He greeted me with a genuine smile. He held my hand and thanked me for the money. That was the only time I felt happy about lending the money, because neither Paul nor his mother has ever shown any gratitude for my help. Paul and his mother gave a cold shoulder to me throughout the event. I was just killing time, talking half-heartedly to Paul's relatives. I was eagerly waiting for the event to be over so that I could leave that toxic place. As soon as all the guests left, I went to my father-in-law to say goodbye before leaving. "Goodbye. You take care of your health." And just then, my mother-in-law intervened. "You don't need to be bothered about my husband when you can't take care of yours." What are you saying? You've been a lousy wife who doesn't do any household chores and gets them done by my son. What kind of wife are you? I didn't force your son to do the household chores. He volunteered to do so. Besides, I work too, so I need his help with the household chores. You should be grateful to him for tolerating a woman like you. But instead, you abuse and torture my son. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Don't pretend to be innocent. Paul has told me how you have mentally tortured him for the money and got an agreement signed as well. Boom.
My father-in-law tried to intervene.
Megan, but not in the first verses. Why are you unnecessarily torturing the girl instead of being grateful for what she has done for us?
You sit there quietly or get key inside your room.
I cannot believe that Megan would misbehave with Thomas in this way. She then turned to me and said,
You should be grateful to my son for marrying you. Else who marries an old and ugly woman like you?
I was so frustrated with her words. I lost my cool, and I shouted back at her.
How can you talk to me like this?
Paul intervened. Laura, mind your language. How dare you raise your voice in front of my mother?
Didn't you hear when she abused me?
Paul rolled his eyes and said, I can't take your tantrums anymore. I don't want to see your face any longer. I don't want any trash in my new dream house, so just get out.
Huh. Right.
Yes, I don't want to live with such a trashy woman.
You've been living on my income all this time, and now you're calling me trash? You're pathetic.
Laura, let us get this straight. You knew you could have never found a handsome man like me, seeing your age and below average looks. Hence, you married me although I didn't earn well. So now you should not be complaining about the money. My face turned red in anger. I felt tricked into this marriage. I yelled at him, I can't stay with such a shallow person. I want a divorce and my money back. Paul started laughing in an evil tone.
Sure, you want a divorce? Go ahead. You'll have to pay me the money if you want a divorce. What the hell? Since you want the divorce, you'll have to bear it.
Paul revealed the evil side of himself, which he was masking all this while. I was furious to see his evil smile.
You'll have to pay my money back, which I lent you, else I'll sue you.
What? Go and find your stupid papers first. I felt numb. I left the place as I could not take any longer. They insulted and despised me. I went straight to my bank, where I had kept the papers in the bank locker. I was shocked to see that the paper was missing from the locker. When I checked the bank log, I found that Paul has accessed the locker a month ago. It was a joint account, hence Paul too had the access to the locker. We opened this joint account after the wedding to save money from our earnings. But sadly, it was just me who was depositing the money. I kept a copy of the document in my wardrobe as well, which was missing too. After all this, I realized how badly Paul has tricked me into this marriage. He showed interest in me at Lucy's party only because of my high salary. He was living comfortably with my earnings in my house. Then, he emotionally blackmailed me to lend the dummy for his house and later threw me out of that house. If this was not all, he stole the agreement papers so that I could not do anything to get the money back. I was tricked into all of these things, but not with the papers. I still managed to keep the original papers with me. I gradually sensed that Paul would betray me, hence I kept the original documents safe at my parents' house and kept a copy in the bank and the wardrobe, despite all the pain and insults which I went through. I was glad that I followed my instinct and got the paper signed by Paul and kept it safe, away from his reach. I called up my mom and narrated the entire incident. My mom was so angry to know this that she wanted to sue Paul and his mother for torturing me. My mother also told me that she was not shocked to know this. I questioned her. Did you know about Paul's intention? No, I didn't know exactly, but I somehow sensed that he was just acting like he was in love with you. How did you sense that? He was so in a hurry for the wedding. You barely knew each other when he proposed and insisted to marry. Well, yeah, you're right. I should have been careful. When you came home, I asked you if you have discussed the finances with him, to which you said yes. Actually, fine, I lied to you. I had never discussed my finances with him. Neither did I ask about his salary, ever, because I was never bothered about his money. Well, take this as a lesson, and don't trust anyone so soon. I hired a lawyer and sent the divorce papers along with the official notice, asking him to repay the amount in 3 years, or else the court would sell off his property to give me back the money. So, Paul and his mother had no idea what was coming to them when the divorce papers and the notice for money reached them. They desperately tried to call me. I ignored all their calls and blocked their numbers. Paul tried to call my parents as well, but they ignored him too. Paul sent a voicemail to my office number saying, I'm sorry for all I did. Please forgive me. You know I love you so passionately. I got carried away by my mom. I'm hopeful that you would take me back. Paul has always used my emotions to trick me into his evil plan, but not this time. I deleted and blocked his contact. He also sent a message through his lawyer requesting me to waive the money by at least 50, as his salary was not enough to pay the hefty amount in 3 years. I ignored the request. I wonder, how did he even think that I would waive off my money after all the insults and personal attacks? I can never forgive them. I patiently waited for 3 years to pass. Paul was barely able to manage 50 of the amount, and that too through loans. The bank offers a loan based on the salary. As his salary was low, he could not get enough money from the bank. Hence, he had to sell the house. He insulted and threw me out of the dream house, and now 3 years later he has to sell his house to pay my money back. Lucy told me that Paul had moved back with his parents into their old apartment. Everyone in the neighborhood gave them a cold shoulder after the truth came out. Megan constantly tortured Paul and Thomas for their poverty and insulted them for their low income. Paul was even criticized at his workplace after they got to know about the incident. He left his job and moved to a different city. Thomas, too, abandoned Megan and went to live with his brother in the countryside. Megan has been working as a nanny for a living. I don't feel sorry for Paul or Megan because they both deserve that. I'm glad to know that Thomas would be living peacefully during his last retirement years. I, on the other hand, have been dating Charles for a year now. He is my colleague and 35 years old. I've known him for many years, but we had no romantic feelings earlier. He was from a different team at the office, barely a year after my divorce. Charles and I interacted at the office party, and we started liking each other's company. I'm cautious this time and taking my own sweet time to analyze things before making any decision. Hello there! My name is Lindsay, and I'm a homemaker. I live with my husband Trent, and things haven't been great between us lately because of a very special someone who always seems to torment me. Yes, folks, you might have guessed correctly. I'm talking about my mother-in-law. Morgan is definitely a handful. She always makes it a point to demean and dehumanize me at any chance she can get. But there was a particular moment in which the straw simply broke the camel's back. On this day, she had gone too far, and I just had to get my revenge. Margaret was making one of her famous monthly visits, in which she would require the whole world to be satisfied. She would complain about improper dishes that were being used, even down to the type of napkins that were on display. She had a problem with everything, so it goes without saying that I dreaded these events, especially because she put all of the pressure and blame on me. She'd always say, "Since you're the homemaker, you have to make sure that this job is done with absolute professionalism." I understand her point, but she also needs to understand that being a homemaker isn't easy. It's just like any other job. Sometimes you might not work as hard. Other days you might slack off. Other days you might enjoy it and perform at your best capacity. And still, there will be other days in which you simply can't take any more and have to take a vacation, personal day just to rest and reset. But of course, Margaret was brought up in a different time than I was, so she is used to experiencing such outdated and harmful ideologies. And Flinzy concedes, "Are the arrangements ready? My mom will be home anytime soon now." "Yes, honey, everything's ready. We're just waiting for her to get here at this point." "Okay, great. You know how she can be sometimes." "Oh, trust me. I know all too well. We only do this once a month, so please just try and be a bit more patient for me." "Fine, fine. I will endure for now because I love you." "Thanks, babe." A couple of minutes later, Margaret arrived and began her usual spiel of hating all of the hard work that I put into making sure that she was comfortable. "Hello, my beautiful babies. How are you all doing?" Lindsay, how could you mismatch the throw pillows like this? Don't you know anything about Feng Shui? Hello. Margaret, how are you? Oh, well. I'm afraid. This simply won't do. It will be bad for my aura. Please take away this cushion at once." I obliged, and for the rest of the night, I managed to oblige to everything that she was telling me, through gritted teeth and a twitching eye. Though the evening was coming to an end, and it was a time which she would normally head home. But for some reason, she stayed for an extra hour, which wasn't too bad. Until that hour became 2 hours, then 3 hours, then 4 hours, and finally it appeared as though she wanted to stay the night. This behavior was peculiar, and she overstayed her welcome. Even Trent was sending me confused expressions, but I was just as confused as he was. Finally, Trent hinted at the elephant in the room. "Wow, it is getting super late. I should be heading to bed. Got a busy day at work tomorrow. Mom, would you like for me to call you a cab?"
Would you like for me to call you a cab?
Oh no, actually, I'm fine.
So wait, would you perhaps like to stay the night? You know you're always welcome.
Mama took a deep breath. She looked like she was about to drop some top, secret information that has been weighing heavy on her heart.
Yes, I know, dear. Thank you. It's just that I don't want to go home. I want to stay here.
Yes, Mikey. Lindsay just said that we have no problem with you staying the night.
See, that's just the thing. I don't want to simply stay for just the night. I want to stay for a while.
There was a pause. We didn't know what had gotten into her. She wanted to stay here for longer.
I mean, there's something wrong with that. These are the goods. I know it must be quite lonely for you ever since Dad died. We stay for the night, and tomorrow you and Lindsay can go to the house and pick up your essentials. As you're always welcome in this home.
As much as I hated what she did at times and dreaded her visits, I could tell that she was quite lonely, so I felt bad and agreed to let her stay with us. I made the mistake of not inquiring how long she'd be staying, you see, because one night turned into 1 month. And 1 month turned into 6 months, and before long, she'd begun renting out her house to other people in the meantime. She practically moved into our home. Ever since that night, she had stayed with us, and a full year had gone by. I was getting fed up with this arrangement. Margaret and I would be home all day together, which was becoming insufferable, especially because she'd always make it a point to nitpick at everything that I did as a homemaker.
Alwenze, don't you know that you're supposed to do it this way?
The issue wasn't even that she was correcting me on things that genuinely needed to be fixed. Don't get me wrong. I am a first person to always be willing to heed constructive criticism, but the things that Margaret wanted to change were so minute and honestly, they were just her insane personal preferences. I would often bring up these issues to Trent, who would brush them off, because in his eyes, his dear mother could do no wrong. But after a year of living like this, I had had enough. I put my foot down and approached Trent about this.
You know your mother has been causing us problems ever since she moved in a year ago. I get that she's feeling lonely, but I don't think she can continue to stay here if she can't respect me as the homemaker of this house. I get that she likes things to be a specific way, but if she feels so strongly about it, why not go back and live in her own home with her own rules?
Then took out one of that one. How could you be so cruel? You're lazy, Lindsay's. Yes, you are the one making decisions in this house, but she's my mother. That can be considered the matriarch of this household even. Earth's version, where you would keep it a respect. It teach you a lesson. You will be cooking all of her meals from now, Wrathful. All in rhyme. Rim railed.
Excuse me.
I will no longer have this insolence taint this house. Again, I could cook all of her meals for her, and I better not hear any more complaints about it. Have an order from your husband.
I was completely shocked and stunned into silence. I had no words. I was so surprised that he would speak to me this way and promote such an unreasonable request. For the past year, Margaret and I would take turns cooking, which I will admit was a nice change of pace from being the sole cook in the house. It made sense for her to contribute as well, what with all of her special requests and conditions for everything. She was obsessive, so it was best that she also prepare the meals. But no, I have to do whatever she wants. I would simply die working myself to the bone like that. The argument ended badly, with me trying to appeal to his better nature, but I had officially ticked him off, and as he said, he didn't want to hear anything else. I felt stuck, but I guess I had to do what I had to do, and so from that moment onward, I was subject to be the Cinderella of the household, tending and catering to her every whim. It should also be noted that ever since this new practice was put in place, Margaret appeared to be incorporating even more complicated nuances and intricacies in her dishes. She would want the fanciest things, as well as exotic items that weren't even available in our neighborhood. I'd have to order them from outside at times, which I thought was absolutely preposterous. It's as though she wanted to live in a 5-star hotel without paying for any of the expenses. This new practice had been implemented for a total of 3 months, and things were getting out of control.
Lindsay, darling, for dinner tonight, I would like frog legs and truffle risotto.
Did she think that I was Gordon Ramsay or something?
I'll be chicken parm instead.
Oh, Lindsay, how could you ask me such a thing? I asked you this one simple thing, and you can't give it to me? Should I tell Trent about this?
No. I guess. I'll see what I can do. It was getting pretty late, and a lot of the grocery stores were closed. I searched online and found that the only place that was open this late and selling those food items was a 2-hour drive away. I called Margaret to tell her of my findings, and this is what she said.
I guess it's alright then. You can come back home. I guess I'll just have a bland dinner unless you don't mind taking the trip.
Of course I mind. I don't have time to do all of this. Mother...
But you're the homemaker. It is your duty to make sure your guests are well tended to.
You're not a guest, though. You've been living with us for a year now.
Well, I didn't know that you felt so strongly about it. Just come home and make me that chicken parm.
I got home to a very cross-looking Trent and a devious-looking Margaret.
Lindsay, do you want to tell me what's going on?
Exactly. I told Margaret that there was no way that I was going to drive 4 hours just for some frog's legs and truffles. I mean, how insane is that, babe?
As much as I do agree with you there, you could have said it nicer. Did you know, Mom, here is our guest an issue. Has been living with us for a year. Guests are only here for a month, maybe 2. But now they're ours. Then they're our she is no longer considered the guest. And honestly, I have a lot I need to do. I can't keep up with her demands anymore. She can continue living here. Fine, but I can't cook all of her food. I'm was to smears. Papa, I want to see you barrel. I'm down. 20 purses. A cost paid? No, you're not. I demanded that you cook for Mother and cook for her you will. I want to hear you complain again. Kind and praise. You will treat my mother with respect.
Margaret was hiding behind Trent, trying to stifle a laugh, knowing that he'd protect her no matter what. She was evil incarnate, and she knew that what she was doing was unreasonable and unhealthy. Okay, but what are we to do about the inconsiderate requests that are made at such awkward hours? That is true. Mom, you have to at least give Lindsay a list of groceries for foods that you will want to have throughout the week so that she can prep accordingly.
But planning everything takes out the joy of eating exotic and rare foods. I know, but please at least try and understand where Lindsay is coming from.
I swear to God, if you closed your eyes, you would have thought that Trent was the parent in this situation. Margaret was acting like a spoiled brat. How peculiar, since she mothered several children. She reluctantly agreed, and the next morning, she dropped a list of things she wanted in my lap. The list was ridiculous, and I couldn't even pronounce half of the things on there. Not only that, but the grocery list was over 3 pages long. To this day, I cannot figure out how just one woman wanted so much. I went ahead and bought the things that needed to be bought, even going as far as going on the 2-hour grocery journey to obtain all of the ridiculous items she wished for. I roamed all the aisles, appearing to put every item in the store into the cart. That's just how much stuff she wanted. People were giving me odd stares, and if I was in their position, I'd do that too, because I was now looking like a spoiled brat. As I was ending my exhausting grocery trip, I saw something from my peripheral vision. In the corner of my eye was a dazzling red and black bottle. With my interest piqued, I approached it and saw that it was none other than the famous hot sauce that was known to make grown men cry. It had a Scoville rating of 1.5 million, and at that moment my evil primate instincts popped up and gave me an idea. I battled back and forth between buying the bottle or not, but I ended up getting it anyways. I bought all of the items and made my way home to appease my insatiable mother-in-law with this new ingredient that was not asked for. I had to make it a mission to hide it meticulously, because my mother-in-law was always rummaging around for things. I was debating as to whether or not I should do what I was thinking of doing, and I was about to just bite my pride and be the bigger person when Margaret approached me in the evening that day to tell me something interesting.
Lindsay, may I speak with you for a moment?
Sure thing. I'm me. What's up?
I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate you and all of the work you do regarding this household.
Oh, do you mean that?
Yes, I genuinely do.
That's all I ever wanted to hear, you know? I just wanted to be recognized as an important member of this family, because I do work hard, despite what others might think.
You do work hard, but you don't work hard enough.
Excuse me?
But me, do you know how hard it was for me back in the day? We had to go through 10 times the work and stress that spoiled babies do nowadays.
I'm sorry that things were tough for you back then, but why should life be about struggling? Isn't that why we want what's best for our children? So that they can live better lives than what people of old did. What exactly is the point of being jealous of seeing someone not struggle?
Goins. Man, how dare you? That's such an outlandish thing to accuse someone of. How could you say something like that?
Listen, Margaret, things are better now. I trust and believe my children will also grow up in worlds that are just better to live in. That's how development works. Would you rather that we all suffer? I was being genuinely kind and compassionate, trying to appeal to her softer side and unmask her hard exterior. But what she said next was unforgivable.
You're nothing but a wench and a stubborn housewife. You're rude and inconsiderate, and you will never amount to anything. Just stick to your job as the scullery maid and Hoover wielder you are.
What did you just say to me? Do you think you can speak to me that way?
Yes, I can because you're worthless.
One thing I would like to advise evil and malicious people, make sure that the people who you offend aren't in charge of handling your food.
That can make my dinner.
Sure thing. I went into the kitchen and went to work. I prepared an elaborate and special meal for my lovely and appreciative mother-in-law, with the special ingredient being the famous hot sauce that I bought. All the while, I was praising myself for deciding to buy the hot sauce. I guess part of me always knew that Margaret had these horrid perceptions and feelings inside of her. Nonetheless, I did the needful and presented the dish to her.
Here you go. Margaret, your coconut curried shrimp and foie gras with some rice, caviar, and truffles on the side to use at your leisure. That's more like it.
Oh, you're so right. This is exactly how you should be treated. I sat across from her at the table, thanking God that Trent wasn't around to disrupt my plans as he was on a business trip. So it was just Margaret and me in the house. She took the first bite.
I mean, it isn't a 5-star quality dish, but then again, what do I expect from a simple housemaid? It will do for now. Oh, what is this strange feeling?
Lindsay, what on earth did you add to this dish? Or whatever do you mean? The dishes are fine. Let me try the foie gras.
No. At this point, Margaret got up and went to the kitchen, screaming and flailing around like a headless chicken.
I did my best to retain my laughter, but I found her in the kitchen with her face and chest drenched in milk. I couldn't help but burst out laughing.
Auntie Rose, what did you do to me?
I taught you a very much needed lesson. Nobody comes into my house and says those awful things to me. I hope that this spiciness is a reminder of how your same callous behavior is not appreciated or welcomed. From now onwards, you will be cooking your food if you so wish to have these awful and fancy dishes. If you'd like to be a normal human being instead of being a spoiled bratty baby, we can cook together. On the days when I'll be cooking for the family, there will always be a plate for you if you so wish to partake.
We can cook together. On the days when I'll be cooking for the family, there will always be a plate for you if you so wish to partake. You're lucky that I should come. How about throwing you out of this house? We better learn how to respect people, or I will see to it that everything that you put in your mouth tastes like that. Anissa.
Margaret was unable to speak, mainly because of the hot sauce, but also because she was just speechless. For once in her life, she was completely silenced. A couple of days had gone by, and Trent returned from his business trip. We had all sat down to eat lunch together.
Bummer, why is it that you've resumed making your food?
Oh, no particular reason.
I thought that I would decrease the burden of cooking for a family, but also making my food.
Alright, as long as you're happy.
Yes. Margaret, as long as you're happy, right?
Yes, of course, my darling. Don't worry about me. I will never complain again.
And that was that. Ever since that day, she had never complained about my food again. I'm Sarah, and I'm 30 years old. I am also currently in the process of getting a divorce from my low-life husband. I no longer want to associate myself with the likes of him and his horrid family. For some reason, immediately after I said, I do at the altar, it's like a switch was flipped, and he'd been treating me quite badly once we became a unit. The in-laws, at least, showed their true colors from the beginning. Their hatred wasn't as loud or prominent, but it wasn't rocket science to determine that they just didn't like me. It was clear that they'd only tolerated me because of my affiliations with Terry. But for some reason, the hatred and the pettiness were slowly but steadily getting amplified as the years went by. And the straw that broke the camel's back was the recent vacation that we went on as a family. The vacation, as one would anticipate, was planned as a means of getting away and relaxing, and that the plan went as follows. Okay, so once we arrive in DR, we have to drop our bags off and unwind for just a bit, approximately an hour or so, because the reservations we made for the dinner at Passion happen soon after we land. Sounds good. And then we continue with the scheduled itinerary the next day, right? Next day, after eating at the restaurant. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna get absolutely hammered. I'm with you on that one. Either Dr. Clissen, me too. At this rate, everyone would be so hungover that we'd miss half of the next day's schedule.
Well, you kids can go ahead and get wasted. I'm afraid your father and I will be relaxing. We're a bit too old to turn ups like you guys.
The planning and preparation made us all feel excited. As adults, we all needed a vacation, and this was turning out to be a beautiful set of upcoming events that would breed a lot of family love and memories. The planning process itself made me believe that the hatred and animosity that was festering throughout the years would cease, or at the very least lessen, because who turns out to be angry and hateful on vacation? Well, apparently Terry's family does. We arrived in DR, and things seemed to be going well until we got to our hotel. For some reason, Florence and Judy were being irritable, cursing and shouting all over the place. Greg and Matt were up to some foolish antics, such as disrupting the feng shui of the hotel and causing a ruckus. And as for Terry, he was too busy berating me for what seemed to be his fault because of his improper planning.
Where are my socks? Sarah?
That's your socks? You mean the socks that I so clearly laid out for you to pack?
Aristocracy, you're my wife. You're supposed to pack these things for me.
I don't know if you fell and hit your head, but I'm not your mother. Okay, I told you that your socks were on the bed. They're with a bed of sort. You even saw them for yourself.
Oh, whatever. I wish you didn't even come with us at all.
Excuse me?
Just at that moment, the rest of the gang came in.
Where's the bar? I've been trying to look for drinks everywhere. Sarah, be a doll and inquire for me, please.
I think you have enough time for that. How we wimps to go to the restaurant?
It's worth mentioning that I work at a restaurant as one of the top chefs. Even though I'm well esteemed for the work I do, my in-laws, and even Terry sometimes, just view me as a poor waitress, despite me telling them all the time that I'm not. So when Judy said that it was my job to essentially run around fulfilling orders for people, I was livid.
Oh, she didn't mean it like that? Sarah, don't get all upset like you normally do.
Right. I didn't mean anything by it. Just a slip of the tongue. I mean, you do work as a waitress, don't you?
How many bags I to tell you? How many Gary's das? Migo. Again on at. That's Marjorie. I got it.
No, now Sarah, don't get hot-headed. Let's just all take a deep breath.
I am exhausted and really hungry. Let's start getting ready for the restaurant.
I was suspecting that people were just a bit tired and irritable from the flight, and that once we get accustomed to this new and beautiful culture, we'd properly relax and unwind, and our relaxing vacation would finally begin. But boy, was I wrong. The restaurant was a disaster, as I was embarrassed by the behavior of my in-laws. They were constantly complaining about everything, and I was also subject to their constant complaining. Since I work in the restaurant industry, they thought that I knew absolutely everything about every restaurant that ever existed.
Sarah dear, the sushi is tasting a bit off. Why is that?
I don't doubt this there, Izura.
The ambiance of this place is also off. Could you maybe talk to your restaurant friends and find out if they can change that?
I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I don't work here. I don't work in works.
At this point, people were staring at us, and I was feeling more than mortified. I wish the floor would just open up and swallow me whole. The vacation was looking to be a bust. I was always being berated, and if I wasn't being yelled at, I was being sent around like a maid to take care of everyone's needs. It wasn't looking like a vacation to me because of how they were treating me. I was even beginning to suspect that the only reason why they brought me along was so that they had someone to boss around and bully. My suspicions were confirmed when I found out that the itinerary of fun activities that were planned didn't involve me at all for the next 2 days. Whenever I would wake up, I would find all their rooms completely empty. After lounging around for hours doing nothing and awaiting responses from the rest of the gang, they'd all be stumbling in half-drunk and happy, coming from a seemingly great time of enjoyment. There was a pause. Nobody looked like they wanted to say anything. It almost looked like they were racking their brains for a sufficient answer. Finally, Terry said, "Oh, you were sleeping, so we didn't want to disturb you." "Okay, but you could have woken me up. This is meant to be a family vacation, right?" Well, it turns out I was actually wrong about my presumptions, because as the days went by. But that's not even the worst thing that happened to me. Our one-week getaway to Doctor was coming to an end, and we were all packed up and ready to go. We all had one last dinner, which was relatively calm, and we went to bed. Our flight was set to take off in the afternoon, meaning that we had the morning time to prepare our final bits and bobs and leave the lovely island. Because of this, I woke up at around 9 a.m., which wasn't too bad considering we were meant to board the flight at 3 p.m. To my utter horror and shock, I woke up to yet another empty house, but this time it seemed as though everyone had left. Terry, Florence, Chitty, Greg, and Matt, all of them had just up and left because their bags weren't anywhere to be found. I was completely flabbergasted. I began frantically calling Terry, and as I felt my anxiety begin to peak, I ended up calling everybody. I even called the front desk, and once I did, all of my doubts were confirmed. The lady at the front desk informed me that everybody had left at around 8 a.m. to mission. She too shared in my confusion, as she had no idea that I was the only one left. Why would they leave me? How could they leave me? I sat there, just trying to understand what happened to me, and the more I sat with this hurt and pain, the more it festered into anger and bitterness. I knew that these people didn't like me. I knew that sometimes they'd even do things for my detriment, such as leaving me out of the previously mentioned list of activities that we were meant to do together as one. But I didn't know the true extent of their craziness. I was going to try and call again, but I decided against it. I needed to strategize something to get my revenge, because I had had more than enough of their shenanigans. Additionally, I had to remind myself, after calming myself down from the panic attack that I had earlier, that I was in the gorgeous and marvelous Doctor. There was no way that I was going to waste my time crying and moping about my situation. Even though I had every right to, I was going to make the most of this trip, and so I decided to extend my vacation. Luckily, I was able to extend my visa as well as my reservation at the beautiful resort. I swear I am now a firm believer in miracles because you'd never guess what happened to me. I was able to move to a smaller room since I didn't need the extra space and continue my vacation in a way that was fulfilling to me, instead of constantly being blindsided by not being privy to the day's activities and schedules. I inquired at the desk and booked all of the activities that I was able to do. There were cruises and casino tours. I also engaged in hiking, tubing, shopping, and glamping. Not only did I do all of those crazy and extravagant things, but I met a group of single ladies around my age. We all decided to chat with one another, and it was a grand time. These ladies looked so free, and I even felt comfortable enough to disclose my embarrassing and abusive relationship with my toxic and weird husband-in-laws. They were all ready to fight for me. I tell you, there is nothing sweeter than a group of good girlfriends who are always ready to have your back. This group of girlfriends accompanied me throughout most of my activities, and I couldn't be happier. I was extremely enjoying my newfound solitude, but I was also ready to share my experiences with a genuine group of people, not like my low-life husband and his equally low-life family members who hated my guts for some reason. You must be wondering how long all of this took. Well, it took me yet another week in Doctor to complete all of these amazing tasks, and I certainly couldn't be happier. You also might be wondering about Terry and the rest of the toxic crew. Well, here's what happened. On the day that they had left me behind, Terry had called me once they arrived home, and this is how the conversation went. "Hello." I was very calm and collected. I think they were expecting me to be frantic and overwhelmed, which I was, but I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of knowing that their sadistic actions had worked on me.
You sound well.
Oh, I am. I hope you're well too. I hope that the flight was safe. Chin, at that moment, I heard voices in the background. I must have been put on speaker. "Yes, dear, our flight was fine. Are you alright? I'm going out later on tonight." "That's none of your concern, I'm afraid." "Excuse me? He is your husband and we are your family, so it is our concern who you're going to be meeting with." "Oh, really? It's funny you say that, because the last time I recalled, husbands and families don't abandon each other." I woke up to an empty house. I knew you trolls hated my guts and only strung me along on this trip just so that I could act as the help. One, that's preposterous. We would never do something like that to you. Oh, Savior Fox sympathy? Your acting is as good as fish-flavored ice cream. Horrendous? Oh, you left me in the dry. How could you be so foolish? It's actually a good thing that you left, because I can finally enjoy my vacation all to myself. I would have to hear any incessant nagging from any of you whiny, childish, toxic babies. And Terry, if it wasn't clear from the tone of my voice, I want a divorce. And since I'm a newly single lady, and since you all want to know who I am going out with tonight, unfortunately for you guys, you couldn't break me down. In fact, the more you tried, the more you failed. Sorry to disappoint you all, but I am better than all of you combined. So please don't worry about me, because it seems like the new life that I have established for myself will be more than enough to sustain me and my happiness. I hope you all have the day that you think you deserve to have. And before I could let anyone speak, I hung up the phone. Immediately afterward, I was being bombarded with calls and texts from my husband and in-laws well. I guess ex-husband and in-laws at this point. Of course. I ignored them all and proceeded to go on with the rest of my evening. Throughout the extra week of my staying in the doctor, I was also receiving calls and texts from these people, but I ignored them all week long, making sure to post the best pictures and reels to my Instagram. They would comment under my pictures, trying to get my attention, but my followers would viciously attack their hateful comments, leading them to cower under pressure. As a celebrated chef, I managed to accrue a decent enough following so that people like this would be dealt with accordingly. But in this circumstance, the satisfaction I got from seeing their trolling behavior was amplified because this particularly hit close to home. Even though they were being ripped to shreds in the comments, it wasn't enough to quell my thirst for revenge. I needed to hit them where it hurt. My special and extra long vacation came to an end, and I had to return to the awful reality that was waiting back home for me. When I got back home to Florida, I opted not to return home, but rather, I would lodge in a hotel just to keep my awful enemies in further suspense since I wasn't updating them of my whereabouts. I returned to my beautiful job and proceeded to post about it so that they would know that I am indeed home, but I just don't want to communicate with them. At this point, I had racked up a total of 1,000 messages and missed calls from Terry, Prince, Judy, Matt, and Greg, but still, I still hadn't thought of my revenge, and then suddenly it hit me. I decided to disrupt the close-knit family structure that they all had. They seemed to enjoy banding together to attack me, but let's see how they'd feel if they felt as though members of the group were being toxic toward one another. It's worth mentioning that this family had a business that they ran together. Maybe it was during these business hours that they discussed their plans to ruin my life, but not anymore. I think about a month had gone by when I decided to call Terry and say, "Hello, Terry. I don't know what it is, but things just haven't been the same. I miss you. We all miss you. Where have you been? Where have you been staying?" I'm afraid that that is none of your concern. However, I wanted to say something that's been weighing heavy on my conscience. Terry, please don't say that. You didn't mean what you said about the divorce, right? As on the contrary, I mean every word of what I said the last time we spoke. I came to tell you some harrowing news, though. Well, since I want a divorce, I thought it would be best if I came clean to you about the things that I saw and heard when we were together. The reason why I didn't bring it up sooner was because I was afraid, but now we have nothing to lose. Or you see, I would often overhear Florence and Matt talk about how they favored Judy and Greg over you. They said that you were weak and pathetic, and the only reason why they still kept you in their lives is so that they could mistreat you. Remember the way that you guys were mistreating me on vacation? That's how they'd mistreat you too. Think about it. That time, they made you drive 3 hours just to get to a store that was already closed, and then they told you that they had no idea that it would be closed. Well, guess what? They knew.
What? That's ridiculous. Mom and Dad would never.
Oh, I'm not finished. Actually, Greg and Judy would partake in the mischievousness as well. Well, it turns out there was an extra invitation that could have been yours, but alas, they gave it to your cousin Charlie instead.
You're lying. There's no way that they would do that to me. I'm their brother. Or you're lying to me.
You think that them sending you pictures was them trying to make you feel included. You should know that there is a whole separate chat group that they have without you, just like how you have a separate chat group without me.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't believe you.
If you want to remain oblivious, be my guest, but I think it's also worth mentioning that your precious and dear mother is cheating on your dad. and she's been cheating on him since 7 years ago. His name is Frederica.
Friedrichstench, the contractor?
The check's the very same.
I don't believe you. I think you're lying.
Don't believe me. Fine. See for yourself. At that moment, I bombarded him with a slew of texts and email threads that backed up everything that I was saying. It turns out that when you have a strong following, they're the type of people who can get any information that you want. Screw hiring a detective or private investigator. These people were the real sleuths because the internet is forever. And I smart followers. They managed to acquire information that would help me in this investigation. Unsurprisingly, this caused a lot of tension and uproar among them, and they managed to catch the full fight because of the cameras that were installed in the house. Terry appeared to have invited his family over to have this big discussion, and even more juicy gossip was spilled. It turns out that Judy was also sabotaging Greg and would steal small amounts of his funds whenever she could. She had apparently been doing it for years, and he was not happy at all. Additionally, Matt had also been cheating on Florence. He'd been having an affair with a coworker for approximately 3 years now. The whole house was a mess, with people screaming and throwing things left, right, and center. It seemed like everybody was mad at everybody, and I was enjoying the show with some popcorn and soda in my lap in my lovely hotel room. Fast forward a couple of months, and the family business that these people ran was dissolving rapidly. It appears as though the newfound incohesiveness that was present was bad for business, and people stopped subscribing to their services. Eventually, they went bankrupt, which was a shame because the business had been in the family for generations. It's safe to say that they have indeed brought shame and disgrace to their family name, and in addition to them not wanting to speak to each other, their extended families don't want to speak to them either. They are miserable and isolated from one another, and it's safe to say that I got my revenge. I'm Sarah, an 18-year-old college student from Florida. My parents divorced when I was 12, and I've been living with my mom ever since. Last year, my dad passed away from cancer. It was devastating for me because we were really close. He left me a significant amount of money in his will. This money would only be accessible to me once I turned 18. Well, this year I turned 18, and the craziest thing happened to me. Honestly, sometimes to this day I marvel at how crazy everything was. One day, my stepdad, Tom, called me into his room. Tom is in his mid-40s and has been married to my mom for 5 years. We've never really gotten along, but I've tried my best to be civil with him. I can't really say the same for him though, because he's always found ways to antagonize and patronize me. I try to keep my distance, but it's hard considering he's a parental figure and we live in the same house together.
Hey Sarah, Teresa's. I need to talk to you about something important.
What is it?
Hey, of course, Neri. I know that your dad left you some inheritance money.
Yes.
Well, it's good says on. I think that you need to give that money to Mike. He needs it for his academic career. He needs to go to university just like you, so you need to give it to him.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could this man so blatantly ask me for my money? I told him I don't think that would be possible. Winter I. It's the money that was left by my father for me. What if I need the money?
Don't be ridiculous. You need the money, and even if you do, you don't need it as much as Mike does.
Well, the answer is no.
Sarah, don't make me angry.
Well, there's no reason for you to be angry. You asked me a question and I gave you an answer. Me saying no isn't meant to disrespect you. It's just a boundary I'm enforcing. And if you're getting upset at me saying no, then you need to check your privilege.
Oh yes, that's me as well. Thou hast been to me this well. I'll have you know that you're staying at my house, sweetie.
Yeah, I don't think so. CIO. And before he could say anything else, I scattled out of his room. I didn't have time to hear his nonsense. Unfortunately, this behavior from Tom wasn't surprising in the slightest. Because of the way he acts, I knew that it was only a matter of time before he would ask me for the money. You might be wondering where my mom was during all of this. Well, that's another issue I've learned to be accustomed to. My mom wasn't just wearing rose-tinted glasses when it came to Tom. Sometimes I feel like she'd been bewitched by him, because it was almost abnormal the way that she would ride for him and stand by his side through anything. Don't get me wrong, she's my mom and she loves me, but I just didn't want to sully her image of him. She seemed to be so content with him, so I decided to put our differences to the side just so that my mom could be happy. It's crazy how even as one of the youngest members of the household, I was tasked with being the most mature one. My mom, Janine, was out of town for a while, hence her absence from this scene. Had she been here, she would have blown a casket. I think that's why Tom felt so proud and domineering. He was the only parent in the house and could therefore impose whatever rules he saw fit. For jokes on him, because I know all about his conniving plans. Tom ended up following me out of the room, berating me and telling me how I'm an awful sister because I don't want to help Mike, which is not true. I do want to help Mike stop being such a leech. When they said that the apple didn't fall far from the tree, I think they were referring to Mike and Tom because these two hooligans are insane. They're like Pinky and the Brain. You can determine who is who by listening to what happens next.
Don't walk away from me when I'm talking to you. Be a wait and do what's say and do what's right.
Why would I do that? Tom, please give me one good reason.
What's going on, you two? I'm trying to sleep.
I tell Sarah about what we discussed earlier. And sure does.
I'm sure. What did we discuss again?
Oh, for the love of the inheritance money.
Ah, right. Well, Sarah, Dad and I were talking and we'd like to...
Damn it, Sir, we meant this money, damn it!
Oh, right. Yes. We demand to have this money because...
Just because of that very important thing we discussed.
You mean the business? Business? What business? You said this money was for university tuition, Buzztown.
Oh, shy, yeah, that's because that's what it's for, right? Sheer... Pixie pleasures? Mike.
I guess yes, I completely forgot. I'm so sorry. I should this as EA. This have just slipped my mind since I just woke up and everything. Straight to upper house doors. We have right between you guys today. At least stars and RBGers. I have an interest in attending university, obviously, and I want. No demand the money for myself, please, and thank you.
Ah, what a cute attempt. Unfortunately, it wasn't cute enough. The answer is no. Why not attend college first? Get your priorities in order and see what you might want to pursue.
Answer people scariers. I guess I haven't thought about that. I don't...
Be cute kid, Hans. Dara, can't express
Why not?
because he knows what he wants. Anyways, this wasn't even up for discussion. I say shy fact. Bring in what, monies?
We'll see about that. Basha!
We spent the rest of the evening with some thick tension in the air. Even though Tom was notorious for his silly antics and attempts at testing my patience, this new attempt at irking me was out of the ordinary. Never had I encountered such an immature and selfish person. This situation was quite big, and I didn't want to tell my mom about it. At least not yet. I wanted to keep toying with them, especially after I found out this. Sarah, stop playing. You need to be a grown-up and do the right thing.
Oh, and the right thing you're referring to is giving away money. Are you alright? If she's dressed that by now, I need...
Don't tell Janine anything.
Why not? Why not? She's my mom.
Even she cares. But then, I'm actively against Tinu. I'm just trying to do you a favor. If you bring this up to her, she'll just get upset at you for wasting her time as well as being so selfish.
Well, Tom, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
I'm warning you, don't tell your mother.
His ferocious tone took me off guard. I'd never seen him get so riled up about something, especially something of this nature. Something was up, and it was up to me to investigate what was going on, especially the aforementioned business idea that Mike managed to slip out. They think I'm stupid, and that I didn't catch on to their silly mistake, as well as Tom feeling so strongly about me talking to my mom about this situation. I talked to my mom as soon as possible.
Oh, won't interest me.
Hey baby, how are you doing?
I'm not very well. This house is weird. Something is up with Tom and Mike, especially Tom. This being weirder than usual.
Don't. Sarah, don't be paranoid. I know you don't really like him, but he's not weird. Mom, he asked me for the inheritance money. Wait, really? Actually, he demanded to get the money, both he and Mike. That's not true. He wouldn't do that. I know you love him, his mom, for whatever reason, but this is true. I want to believe you, but it's all just so surreal. Why would he do that? He said it's for Mike's education, but I think something fishy's going on. He was even quite aggressive when I told him that I would tell you what he said to me. I don't know, baby. I just feel like I need more proof. Don't worry. I'll get all the proof. Just wait and see. Even though my mom wasn't ready to completely and wholeheartedly believe me, I told you that man put a spell on her. I was still determined to get to the bottom of this particularly strange behavior. In the dead of night, I logged into the family computer and found something shocking. Fortunately, for me at least, it appeared as though Tom had forgotten to log himself out of his emails. Big mistake, as I saw something that was very concerning. Tom appeared to have been sending emails to a certain lady named Denise, and let's just say that these emails weren't family-friendly. From the looks of it, it looked like he was having an affair. I cemented what I was finding, and as if my jaw wasn't already on the floor, the next piece of information I found certainly completely unhinged it. The emails detailed Tom talking to his mistress about divorcing my mother and scurrying off with her. He said he and Mike would get a large amount of money soon, and that would be used to upstart some business. But if I'm being honest, from what I read that day, it appeared to be some sort of shady business. Of course, Tom isn't stupid. He wouldn't expose potentially illegal information in his email chain like that, but he is stupid enough to have an affair and forget to log out. I knew that I had to gather as much information as possible, and I knew that with enough effort and determination, I could probably squeeze something out of Mike. The next day, I approached Mike, but not before hitting the record button on my phone. Hey Mike. Hello Sarah. You seem to be chipper today. Why not be chipper? It's a beautiful day after all. I have some questions I wanted to ask you. See, I've been thinking a lot about what you said and Tom said, and I'm considering giving you the money.
Simply, ignore past me. It's great. Straight for the cock. Your dad will be so happy to hear this.
Not so fast. Before I give you this money, because it is for you, right? For your college tuition.
Oh yeah, right? Yeah, my college tuition. Yeah. Hey, anyways, I can't be a dime. Anyways, I need to be sure that you're very serious about receiving this money. Yeah, Black, read out keys that I can. I am very serious.
Denise? Who is Denise?
Oh, she's the student advisor for the college we're planning on sending Mike to. Mary.
Both Mike and I were scared senseless. I was doing nothing of the sort. I was simply asking him how my money was going to be used. Well, once you give someone money, it's no longer your money, so it's not your business. Is that any way to speak to the person who is considering giving you money? You're not considering anything? For Crease, you're giving me that money? If you don't give me that money, then I'm just gonna have to kick you out.
You're giving me my money, that EBR. If you don't give me that money, then I'm just going to have to kick you out.
I was stunned. It seemed as though Mike was stunned too.
And wasn't part of that.
Shut your head. I'm the parent, and therefore I get to make the rules. If you don't give me that inheritance money, then you can just get out.
I opted not to say anything because little did Tom know. I was still recording this conversation. I caught him red-handed. I walked out of the room, sending Tom the evilest of evil eyes, and proceeded to lock myself in my room. I began compiling everything that I could against him. I felt like those detectives in those TV shows, collating all the data and putting it up on their conspiracy walls. I took the voice recording as well as the screenshots I took of the conversations between Tom and Denise and braced myself for the storm that was about to let loose. After I was done with everything, I called my mom. Hello, I'm me. Okay, love, how are you? Are you sitting down? Bye. Why? What's wrong? I'm afraid that there's some harrowing news I need to share with you, and you're not gonna like it. I started spilling the beans. I told my mom everything that I found, and all the while she was denying it until I made her listen to the audio recording I took earlier, and at this point, her resolve began to crumble. Why would he say those things to you? Why would he do that to me? Why would he be so cruel? Because he's an evil man. I mean, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you married a monster. This is just awful, and I left you all alone with those two sickos. Absolutely not. I'm coming home right now. You stay where you are. Have you locked your door? I'm going to ruin that man and make sure he never shows his face to the public again. When I'm done with him, he's gonna wish he never married me. That's the spirit. Don. Dukshin, now hurry up and get home. We need to devise a plan. My mom arrived several hours later and immediately came to my room. We hugged and cried for what seemed like hours. I could tell that this news wasn't easy to hear, but I'm glad that she was in her angry stage of this revelation as it prompted her to act, and act she did. We talked for hours, and at the end of the deliberation, we knew what we would do. Several days had gone by, and Tom didn't know why my mom came home so early from her work trip, as well as why she was giving him the cold shoulder. He appeared to be very happy, almost unreasonably so, to show my mom that he was sweet and innocent, but unfortunately for him, she now saw through his very well-orchestrated facade, and she was ready to kick him to the curb. My mom opted to hire a PI. After I showed her the shady messages about this alleged day's business, she too felt a strong sense that the money was not going to be used for anything legal. This especially infuriated her, as she simply couldn't fathom how a parental figure could be so cruel and conniving. That's when she wanted to take things into bigger hands. She knew she and I alone could not handle what was about to ensue, and oh boy did, we find out a lot of incriminating evidence. The PI got back to my mom, and my mom relayed the information to me. So wow, I'm even at a loss for words. What did the PI guy find? Well, it turns out that he's planning on running a money laundering business out of the laundromat he wants to buy and establish as his business. It's the oldest trick in the book. That's not all. This Denise person he's been cheating on me with is also in trouble with the law for drug-related stuff. She's been arrested on several occasions for conspiracy to sell and distribute illicit substances. So it wouldn't be surprising if they weren't just doing money laundering in that business, but also drug-related stuff. That is crazy. I would have never expected that. I feel like a shield has been removed from my eyes. I can see now that the man that I married isn't a man at all, but a sick and twisted beast. When are we going to bust them, Mom? Right now. Follow my lead? Right now. Wait, let me get my camera. We proceeded to go to the living room, where we found Mike and Tom rambling about their shitty business. And then we'll have to use this as a caveat for our business. It's all gonna be super well hidden. All you have to do is pretend like you don't know what's going on and just serve the customers accordingly. Okay, but what about? Oh hey everyone, we're just finalizing the stuff for Mike's college application. Cut the crap. The jig is up. We know everything. What do you mean? Oh, that folk innocent act isn't going to work on her anymore. Smile for camera. Get that out of my face. You spoiled brat. I mean Sarah. We know everything. Then, do you know how many years in jail you'd spend just for the conspiracy to commit the crimes you intend to do? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh. Well, perhaps we should call Denise and see what she has to say. You two went through my things.
You too! What you two? You two went through my things! How dare you!
No, they touched me, King Rem. Tom, how dare you? How dare you threaten my daughter on multiple occasions?
To give you money that doesn't belong to you. How dare you threaten to kick her out of my house? Are you sick in the head? How dare you endanger your son by putting him in your foolish shenanigans? And how dare you conspire to use this money for illegal activities?
Hungry, I turkey, dirty, I wish.
Yeah, my God, that's enough to have. Just say, hey, we know everything, and we're gonna take you down.
Platsim attempted to lunge at me, but I was too quick for him. He was being quite aggressive, which was quite scary.
And now you want to attack my daughter. I think you want to rot in prison.
Yeah, crazy. Do you think you know anything?
Yeah, well, tell it to the police, who should be here any second now.
This police? Pure trespassers.
That's the police. They thought that I wouldn't call the cops on you, especially with how you're behaving.
At that moment, we heard police sirens pulling up to our neighborhood. Never in my life had I seen Tom look this way. He was always smirking, as if he was 2 steps ahead of everyone. But today, once he heard those sirens, it was like all the blood drained from his face. He looked terrified. He finally said,
Please, IT-word. Idinio, you don't have to do this. I are fat chat show. I can't explain everything.
Save it for the judge, you cockroach. You disgust me. I don't betray ya. And Mike, don't think you're off the hook for this. You two are both getting arrested.
I know you're a kid, but you are old enough to know better, and for that, you need to be punished.
Come on, just practice session keep a option. Virginie, don't you know this is a bit excessive?
On the contrary, it's not excessive enough. That way with the live stream. Tina!
We got over 3 people in the live stream. That doesn't not be back.
Oh, it just wasn't clear enough. But Yvonne's.
You heard it right, folks. Over 3,000 people witnessed this whole debacle, and surely enough, the news was hitting local newspapers and tabloids. It was crazy to be amidst the notoriety of my sick ex-stepfather and his son, but it was also sweet to witness his demise. He lost his job, his friends, and even some family members don't wish to speak with him. He's being charged with all of these conspiracies, which if the judge sees fit, he can spend upwards of 20 years behind bars just for this. The police also managed to find Denise, who had gone in hiding when all of this was blowing up, and she too was charged with the aforementioned charges. Life was sweet on this side though, as my mom and I grew closer due to this situation. On the weekends, we'd often chill on the patio, drinks in hand, while we laugh at how stupid and evil Tom was.
Get reddens, keep the bright spirits.
Additional to Joy. But then she said, "You're a curse to our family." I knew you're a curse to our family. I honestly didn't think that I would be on here sharing a story like this, but here I am with my own peculiar story to share. This is the story of how I exacted revenge against my horrid mother-in-law, and eventually cut her out of me and my baby's life. My name is Maya, and I gave birth to my daughter, Macy, 1 year ago. I feel like enough time has passed for me to be able to comfortably share this story, as I was going through a lot. But now that I'm in the clear and well away from everything that went down, I'm ready to share this. It was supposed to be one of the greatest days of my life, after my sweet 16th birthday, my graduation ceremony, my engagement party, my wedding, and my dinner party that was to celebrate me landing a well-deserved promotion. This was the next momentous thing to celebrate with unbridled love and care and comfort. Any mother would know that I'm talking about giving birth to my first child. I've always wanted to be a mother, which made the idea of finally meeting my baby and introducing them to the world an even sweeter anticipation. Unfortunately, though, I didn't get the picture-perfect labor story. Together, I got something that for a very long time left a bitter and sour taste in my mouth. It all started when the doctor said, "It's a girl."
Oh my goodness, it's true! It's quite... Oh wow, the cesarean. Oscan. I'm speechless, is gorgeous. She's gorgeous.
Let's let Mom meet her bundle of joy.
Oh, my sweet baby. I love you so much. I don't even know you, but I'm in love with you.
Mom, come meet your granddaughter.
All of us wondered why she hesitated to step forward and greet the new addition to the family. As she approached, we could see a clear and deep frown on her face. This all made us turn our heads in confusion. You witch. What? What have you done? You've ruined everything. But honestly, part of me wished that they stayed. I knew you were a curse to our family. How could you birth a girl? A girl? Are you crazy? John, what is she talking about?
My pedagogy, an IMT. What the words are you talking about?
Now look, the baby is crying. I don't care. That wench isn't any granddaughter of mine. Balkinefchen, yuck. John, why aren't you as furious as I am? Your father's going to be livid once he hears of this.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm still coming down from the painkillers.
But Martha, right now, you're not making any sense at all. Please, what is the issue here? Why aren't you excited to see Macy? Why are you doing this?
I could just spit on both you and that baby.
Okay, it's time to go. Ash vs. Store.
Before I could inquire any further, let alone shout back at that old hag for the awful things she was saying, John quickly escorted her out of the room, all the while trying to muffle her incessant ranting about tradition, curses, and regret. I had no idea what she was on about. I thought that the old lady finally lost it, but as I would come to find out later, she wasn't crazy in a cuckoo way, she was crazy in a very evil and malicious way. Instead of celebrating this moment with my dear ones, I was crying in that delivery room with my baby in my hands, who was also mirroring my upset nature. What an awful way to introduce such a sweet and innocent girl into this already cruel world. A couple of days passed, and I was discharged from the hospital. Things were awkward between John and me, and we never got the chance to properly discuss what happened, as I was still healing from the birth. We got in the house, laid little Macy to sleep, and decided to talk about what happened.
Here's something that I need to tell you. And the reason why I haven't told you about it till now is that it's the most stupid thing to exist in our family history.
I don't even know why this is such an issue for my mother when everyone else doesn't mind it. What's going on, John? Why did your mother act like that? And why is she sending me death threats?
Still sending theirs to you. She promised me she'd stop. She's that calm. Just get shit. Chop it for the Rio. I already know how to deal with that woman.
Tell me now.
When my mom married into the family, she was made wary of an ancient and ancestral family tradition of ours. Jack?
For some reason, the Capito name has always had boys, at least for the past 7 generations. The myth is that once you marry into the Cato family, you will be destined to have boys. And according to that tradition, having boys is a blessing because, well, they carry the family name and they're stronger and wiser. It's a stupid and misogynistic practice. That's why I didn't even think to tell you about it. And honestly, my family doesn't even mind having either gender. It just so happens that I only have brothers, and my dad also only has brothers, and my grandpa only had brothers. It was just a fun piece of trivia to throw at friends. But my mom, what was meant to be a light-hearted story about the Capital family became an obsession.
Hold up a second. Let me get this straight. You mean to tell me that your mom really believes in all of that mumbo-jumbo?
And she didn't get the memo that you all no longer subscribe to that.
Pretty much, and the unfortunate thing is the blessings, but obviously means that girls are supposed to be curses.
My mom thinks that your womb is cursed or something because she just cannot fathom a 7-generation streak getting broken now. She believes that something wrong is happening. But it's like it was bound to happen, you know?
Rationally, that's ridiculous. Tell her to grow up and get over herself.
Baby, I tried telling my dad to get through to her, but she won't budge. I honestly don't know what else to do.
I was so furious. I didn't even know what to do with myself. This woman made me feel like absolute garbage for the past 3 days, when I was supposed to be resting and healing and enjoying some skin-to-skin with my newborn. Instead, my mind was racing, and I was unable to sleep, thinking about that horrible face she made when she looked at my daughter for the first time. It definitely looked like she had some murderous intent.
I don't care what you do, but I need you to know that we cannot afford to ruin Macy's childhood with a sick and twisted grandma.
I can continue to talk to her, okay?
A month had gone by, and I still hadn't received an apology from that wretched woman. At the same time, however, I also didn't receive any more annoyances and death threats. So I guess you gotta take the good with the bad. I was just grateful that I was now able to focus my full attention on Macy. The fears and dreams I had of a devilized Martha terrorizing my child had subsided. That was until we got an unexpected message from her. Martha took the liberty of emailing both John and me with a surprisingly sweet and warm message. It read,
Dearest John, First Mayo, I would like to extend an olive branch. I'm sorry for the things I said.
Please come to a family dinner. I've invited extended family members alike. Please let us all sit and properly celebrate the new life that has been graciously bestowed on us. Please allow me to apologize properly in person. With love, always. Touched, Mom.
Okay, so the apology could have been a bit more sincere.
Way more sincere. It seems kind of fishy. Why didn't she call? Why didn't she come over?
Yeah, but I didn't know that I want our daughter to grow up to be a loving and forgiving person.
We have to at least try and make our daughter know her grandma, even though she's acting crazy right now. At least she's interested in hashing things out.
Fine, you're right. I get you. Let's do it.
Later on in the week, the family dinner that Martha was hosting was finally here. I was actually feeling somewhat excited. This would be a good chance for a good chunk of the extended family members to meet Macy, as they didn't get the chance to do so earlier in the month. Both John and I arrived at the event, and we were happy to be swarmed with hordes of family members, covering us with their praises and koofs and hugs and kisses. Both the kids and the older generations of the family were acting the same. They all felt blessed to introduce Macy to this family. To say that we were showered with unending love from them would be an understatement, but a family member who was missing from the group was, of course, Marcia. She was tucked away in the dark corners, watching from a distance.
She said maybe she'd been apprehensive to approach us after the debacle that happened last time.
Why don't you go over to her with Macy and try and reintroduce the two to each other?
You're right.
I approached Martha, and I saw a growing look of worry and tension on her face.
It's okay. Misa, we believe in second chances. Come and meet your granddaughter for the first time again.
I think it's time for us to eat. Come, everyone.
That was weird. Why was she acting so nervous? She scurried away as if I was approaching her with a bomb in my hands, and not my sweet baby Macy. Anyways, once we were all settled at the dinner table, with Macy and her bassinet near my side, we said grace and began to eat. But instead of thinking that I would enjoy my meal, all of us were in for a shot. Martha stood up and said, "Attention, everyone. May I please have your attention?" "Thank you. As you all know, our daughter Maya has given birth to a child, and I wanted to gather you all here today to just discuss the level of disrespect and disgust that I've obtained from all of this."
What are you talking about, Martha?
The what is wrong with me? The what is wrong with you? How dare you bring this monstrosity into our home? Into our lives?
No, jag dem start tell. It's drop it now we can.
The fact that you won't stand up and defend me just shows that you don't care about the Cappy name.
Emily, listen up. For the past 7 generations, has this household only produced baby boys? The house murmured an agreement.
So why is it now that whenever this wench came into our lives, that tradition has been broken?
Have you forgotten about tradition? Have you forgotten that girls are a bad omen? We don't do that here. In fact, I'm so convinced that this is a curse that I'm pretty sure that baby isn't even John's.
What did you just say?
But you heard me? Tell us. Mia, is that John's baby?
Of course, it's my baby.
I want her to answer.
Listen here. Martha, I'll do you one better. I'll get you proof that this baby is John's. But I want you to know that once I do, you will never be part of our lives again. Do you understand?
Look, she's even threatening me. Sounds like a guilty conscience to me.
John, let's get out of here.
John and I angrily and awkwardly packed our things and proceeded to leave, a direct juxtaposition to what we were agreed with. We left with some family members urging us to stay and that we could talk about this, but this just made me angrier. Why aren't you guys defending us? You know that she's in the wrong, and you don't want to call her out for whatever reason. Don't tell me to stay if any of you aren't willing to help us fight this woman's crazy allegations. The family turned silent, with a smirking Martha in the back. I left, giving her the evilest eye that I could muster. I was determined to prove her wrong and embarrass her in front of everyone. We made our way home. The drive was silent. I was too mad to even tell my husband I told you so. My mind was swirling with so many thoughts that I couldn't even speak.
Let's talk about this. Was she Chesser? Of closets.
What is there to talk about? Your mother is crazy, and I told you that something was off about the whole encounter.
How am I supposed to deal with her? John, and why weren't you fighting for me back there?
What are you talking about? I was also upset.
Maybe you were, but you definitely didn't fight for your family back there.
I'm sick of feeling alone in all of this. John, why did you put your mother in her place? I know you can do it, but I guess you're scared.
Why? Eviction! It's not easy.
But she's crazy. John, and she's bad for Macy.
I'm so sorry that you're in this position, but you're going to have to choose. Is it going to be your mom or your daughter and I?
Alright, I can wait. I turn more. I sat down. I need some time to think, okay? Or...
To say that this broke my heart even further would be an understatement. I didn't know what to do. It seemed like my whole life was falling apart. And I felt so guilty for bringing this beautiful girl into this cold and dark world. She was meant to be with a family that loved her enough to stand up for her, but it seemed that in every direction I turned, we either received active malice and hatred or nonchalance and indifference. Neither situation was better than the other. Macy deserved unconditional and full love, but for some reason, I was the only one who could see that. At that moment, my sadness was accompanied by anger, which is what fueled me to keep going. Had I just been a sad and sobby miss, I wouldn't have managed to exact my revenge on that wicked old woman and everyone else who doubted me. I'd gotten DNA samples from both John and Macy, and I went to the hospital to have them tested out. I also had John tell Martha that I had done this. There was no way I was calling her out of my own volition. John would report that Martha was convinced that the results would come back negative, and I was just waiting for the day that she would eat her words. The results came back a couple of days later, and I didn't even bother opening the document, as I already knew the truth. I told John to tell his mother that I got the results and that she should come over so that we can open the document together. She practically sped over to our house, eager to try and prove me wrong because she had convinced herself that she was right. Once she arrived, that's when I did the needful. What both John and Martha didn't know is that I had gotten those hidden cameras and mix systems and placed them in the living room where we were to sit down and squash her silly doubts once and for all. Hello, Maya. Let's get this over with.
Where's the child?
But you won't even call her by her name. You aren't even acknowledged that she's a shoe. Let's just cut the chit-chat and get right into it. That's why you came over, right?
I don't know. I can't wait to see your face. You're so convinced that you're correct, aren't you? Why would you even go through all of this trouble just to be proven wrong?
John, can you please tell your mother to back up out of my face before I do something I'll regret?
Oh, scary.
I want to reiterate that once you find out that your son, a Capito, has had a daughter. I never want to see you again, and you will subsequently lose the right to see anybody I love and care about, especially Macy.
Yeah, whatever, and when the results come out negative.
Which I know they are, you're gonna get divorced and excommunicated from this family. And once my gardening group and golf group hear about this, your name will be ruined. Those ladies know how to talk. You'll be the talk of the town before the sun sets. I swear it.
We'll see about that. John began to open the letter and read.
Mr. Wrathful, in the case of John Capito and Macy Ashley Capito, there is a 99.99,999 chance that there is a relationship between the two parties.
This can't be.
You may proceed to leave this home effective immediately, ma'am. I will be removing you from the well, and you can do the same for me.
Mia, wait. John, wait.
That brave of all here. Mama, for what's new expression. You messed up big time to an spoil paper dealer. But the proof is all here, time.
Maya, I'm so you. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was so wrapped up in believing that you were wrong that please.
But nope.
Mia, please. I'm a pleading grandmother, please. I'll get on my knees and beg if you want to. I have to see my granddaughter. Where is she?
That is none of your concern. You are no longer welcome in this house, and if you don't leave in the next 30 seconds, I'm calling the police.
Oh, please. You can't do that.
Yes, I can. I'm getting a restraining order against you, and you will be required to stay as far away from me as possible.
I highly recommend you leave now, because you've used up your 10 seconds.
John, help me.
I'm afraid I can't do that. My honesty is fine but spectry. I am here with Mia. I'm standing up for my family. Bye for spoilers to tell.
I didn't do enough of that before, and Mia, my love. I'm so sorry for not being the man you needed at the time, but I'm here now.
It's gonna take me some time to lean on you like that again, babe, but I accept your apology.
Oh, come on. How was I supposed to know? We've had this tradition for years. I'm sorry if I got a little paranoid.
You called my daughter an abomination and a monstrosity. What sort of mother would let the likes of you anywhere near her?
Even if it was all just a misunderstanding as you're trying to frame it, we all know the truth. You're a toxic, sick, and twisted woman, and by the way, it's not gonna be my name that's ruined. You see that pillow over there? Notice the blinking light.
What? What are you talking about? Are you recording me? I swear to God. Maya, you better delete that.
But you see...
Martha snatched the camera, but it was far too late. I checked on my phone, and the video itself was already gaining hundreds of views. just with people commenting on how awful Martha was. I showed it to her, and her face began to crumble. Her entire social status and all of the privileges she got due to her name were going to be muddied by this deco. Thank God for the fast-paced notoriety that can be gained due to social media. As was promised, I ensured that I got a restraining order for my daughter and me against her crazy grandmother, and she tried her best to violate that, mourning the loss of the potentially great relationship she could have had but chose to throw away. As for John and I, we're working on rebuilding our relationship after this, but I'm just glad that he could now see the light and see that I was right all along. My mother-in-law might have stolen such a joyous moment for me, but I swear on everything that she won't take any more moments away ever again.